protracted trade tensions between China and the United States may be easing off, but the trade war is still there, and that is damaging to the South African economy as well as for job creation here. That's according to Trade and Investment Minister Ebrahim Patel. He was speaking to our reporter Glorious earlier. Patel saying it's important to find solutions where all countries operate within the set trade rules. Let's take a listen.
If a trade war does break out, it can potentially be very damaging to South African growth and to South African jobs. About a third of our GDP is made up through exports. And that means there are thousands and thousands, if not millions of jobs of South African workers that are tied up with the export of goods and services. So it's in our interest as a country that we find solutions that are within a multilateral trading system. Multilateral trading system means all countries come together, they agree the rules, and they live by the rules. Now, part of what President Ramaphosa did at the G20 is to urge that countries should operate within the rules and that we should not walk away and start an enormous trade war in which there can be no winners. The last time the world had these big trade wars, nobody won. In fact, we had the Great Depression.
Do you feel the matter of the trade tensions between the US and China was thoroughly dealt with by the G20 leaders?
I think the G20 helped to contain the challenges, but they're by no means over. At the heart of it is whether the citizens in wealthier countries accept some of the adjustment costs that they need to make. South Africa has very little policy space to grant concessions to others. We have one of the most significant levels of unemployment anywhere in the world. We've got huge levels of poverty. So for a country like South Africa or countries elsewhere on the continent to ask for policy space is fully understandable. For wealthy countries to ask for it is less understandable. But it's the nature of economics that people are reluctant to make sacrifices themselves. And so I think what we will see is probably the continuation of trade tensions. We hope we can diffuse this one. Perhaps if an agreement is reached, that it will buy some time when the threat of all-out trade war will be averted. But it's in the hands of China and the United States at the moment. So it's not something that South Africa can directly anticipate the outcome of.
What is South Africa's position on the economic digitization declaration that was signed by some members of the G20 at the summit?
Some countries like Europe, the United States, Japan have a huge lead in digitization. They've got companies that are exporting services and even goods using digital instruments. And then there are a number of countries that are still catching up, like South Africa and pretty much most of the African continent. So the question is, do we make the rules now? And if so, do we all make the rules? Most developing countries felt the rules should not be made immediately. They must be first given a chance to develop their digital economies. The developed countries took the view then, if the World Trade Organization, where everybody is present, isn't going to talk about it, they will set up something called a plurilateral. A plurilateral is when a select group of countries come together to reach an agreement. South Africa does not believe that plurilateralism is the best solution. The best solution for us is multilateralism, where everybody gets together. So we did not think it was appropriate to endorse a statement that essentially backed and supported plurilateralism. We are representative of the African continent. Most African economies have not yet been able to develop strong and robust digital platforms, and we need to protect that space.
You brought business people from South Africa here to Japan to meet also investors from Japan to see if they can invest in South Africa. I'd like to find out, with the kind of challenges that we have back home, electricity issues, land expropriation policy issues, what are some of the concerns that investors are raising about investing in South Africa?
We raise the issues as government about electricity and land reforms. So these are matters that we recognize we need to address. Electricity is fundamental to businesses, and when Eskom shuts down the power in an area, it has a huge negative effect on the economy. And on land expropriation, what I think the Japanese business community accept is that if we want social stability in the long run in our market, in our society, which will help to create the social conditions where their investments are protected, we have to address a better system of land ownership. And so the president took these things head on and dealt with these.